Welcome to Time Travel 4K. There are places still untouched, where nature whispers instead of shouts, where time moves slower and the world feels ancient again. These are landscapes carved by silence, not machines. Places too wild for crowds, too sacred for signs. Today, we journey into Earth's secret corners, from frozen cliffs suspended in sky to golden mountains painted by time. This isn't just travel, it's a return to wonder, to stillness, to the parts of the world that don't just take your breath away, they change the way you breathe. This is Time Travel 4K. Let's begin. Pamukkale, Turkey, a white dream carved by time and water. Approx. 1,000 words nestled in the heart of Turkey's Denizli province. Pamukkale is not merely a destination. It's a phenomenon of nature, a surreal meeting of earth and water sculpted over millennia. Its name, meaning Cotton Castle in Turkish, paints a picture that is at once poetic and accurate. Imagine gleaming white terraces cascading down a hillside like frozen waterfalls, their steps filled with warm turquoise pools that mirror the sky. But to truly grasp Pamukkale's wonder, one must understand both its science and its soul. These terraces are formed by travertine, a type of limestone deposited by the area's hot springs. For thousands of years, water supercharged with calcium bicarbonate has bubbled up from deep underground. As it cools and flows across the slope, it releases carbon dioxide and leaves behind solid white deposits of calcium carbonate. The result? A gleaming, otherworldly landscape that looks like it belongs on the moon or in a fairy tale. But Pamukkale isn't just about striking visuals. This site is part of a much larger layered story, one that stretches back to ancient times. For nearby lies the Greco-Roman city of Hierapolis, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that adds an incredible historical dimension to the area. Together, they create a rare harmony between nature and civilization, earth and culture, serenity and legacy. As you walk barefoot across the terraces, a requirement to protect the fragile formations, the warm water gently laps at your feet. It's soothing, grounding, and oddly spiritual. Many travelers describe the sensation as walking through time itself. You're treading where ancient Romans once bathed and where modern seekers now find calm. The combination of warmth, minerals, and panoramic views has drawn visitors since antiquity, both for healing and for inspiration. And healing is no exaggeration. The waters here are believed to carry therapeutic properties, rich in minerals that ease skin ailments, arthritis, and stress. There's even a sacred pool on site, often called Cleopatra's Pool, where visitors can swim among ancient columns that fell during an earthquake. Floating amid ruins in warm, crystalline water, it's an experience you won't easily forget. Yet Pamukkale is more than the sum of its parts. It's also a lesson in delicate balance. For years, over-tourism threatened the site's integrity. Hotels were once built directly atop the travertine, draining the thermal waters for their own use. The government stepped in, demolished the structures, and implemented strict preservation policies. Today, access is regulated, and sections of the terraces are alternated between use and recovery, proof that when cared for, nature can continue to enchant. When visiting, timing is everything. Arrive early, just after sunrise, and you'll find Pamukkale bathed in golden light with far fewer crowds. The travertine shines like ivory, and the pools reflect pastel hues of dawn. Stay until dusk and you'll witness the sun melting behind the hills, painting the terraces in shades of amber, lavender, and pink. These are the moments where Pamukkale transcends a destination and becomes an emotion. Beyond the terraces, Denizli offers authentic Turkish culture. Traditional tea gardens, bustling bazaars, and savory local cuisine await. Be sure to try kebab, slow-roasted lamb, and gizlim, a thin flatbread filled with cheese and herbs. These small-town charms contrast perfectly with the epic scale of Pamukkale's natural grandeur. For photographers, Pamukkale is a dream. Drones are now restricted for preservation, but even with a handheld camera or phone, you'll capture scenes that look like they belong in a fantasy film. Whether you shoot wide-angle landscapes or close-up details of calcium ridges shimmering like coral, every frame tells a story of water's patience and Earth's artistry. For history lovers, the connection between Pamukkale and Hierapolis is irresistible. Walking among the ancient theater, necropolis, and thermal baths feels like flipping through the pages of an old world, one where beauty and healing were deeply intertwined. Don't skip the museum within the old Roman baths, where artifacts whisper tales of rituals, myths, and everyday life. But above all, what makes Pamukkale unforgettable is its ability to inspire awe. In a world rushing toward the future, this place reminds us that some of the most profound miracles unfold slowly, drop by drop, year by year. It invites you not just to witness, but to pause, to listen, to marvel. So whether you're a wanderer, a wellness seeker, a lover of ancient ruins, or simply someone in search of something extraordinary, Pamukkale welcomes you. Not with loud spectacle, but with quiet magic. Come with respect, tread gently, and you'll leave changed, carrying with you the touch of a cotton castle and the memory of warm waters whispering through stone. Hierapolis, literally the holy city, rises just above Pamukkale's famed cotton-white travertine terraces. Founded in the early 2nd century BC by the Attalid kings of Pergamon as a sacred thermal spa. From its earliest days, pilgrims arrived seeking healing in its mineral springs, and today visitors still come to walk among ruins once thought to cure the body and elevate the soul. Moment you step inside through one of the monumental city gates south via Domitian's triple-arched entrance, or the Frontinus and Byzantine north gates, you feel transported into another world. These gateways, once carved with inscriptions and carvings, framed a main colonnaded street buzzing with life millennia ago. Today, as your guide, I invite you to walk barefoot through those same stones and imagine the echo of ancient footsteps. The heart of Hierapolis is its grand Roman theater, built under Hadrian in the 2nd century AD and later adorned under Septimius Severus. This massive monument once seated 15,000 spectators, its marble carvings and orchestra transformed even for aquatic shows in late antiquity. As you ascend the cavea, the view opens onto Pamukkale's terraces, twin wonders of nature and engineering. Just beyond stands the Temple of Apollo, and next to it, the eerie Plutonian or Gate to Pluto, a cavern emitting toxic carbon dioxide fumes that ancient priests and worshippers believed led to the underworld. Animals entering often collapsed, feeding the myth of divine power. And today a replica statue of Hades and Cerberus marks the sacred spot. Nearby lies the martyrium of St. Philip, believed to mark the apostles' martyrdom in AD 80. The octagonal church with basilica and baptistry was rebuilt in Byzantine times, turning Hierapolis into a Christian pilgrimage center atop its pagan roots. Walking its sacred precincts, you sense layered beliefs, Phrygian, Greek, Roman, and Christian, all woven into stone. The necropolis extends beyond city walls for over 2 kilometers and includes more than 1,000 tombs, rock-cut chambers, temple sarcophagi, and the unique relief of Roman water-powered sawmill machinery dated to the 3rd century AD. This is where science, art, death, and devotion collide in marble and limestone. When I lead you through the narrow lanes between monumental tombs, I encourage silence, not just to listen, but to feel the echo of hopes and prayers etched in stone. Amenable terrain surrounds the Roman baths, now repurposed into an archaeological museum. Here, relics from Hierapolis and neighboring ancient cities, statues, inscriptions, carved stones, reveal daily life. A jewelry piece, pottery shards, scroll fragments, small tokens of a great empire. Now imagine stepping off the ruins onto the travertine terraces themselves. Across a cliff nearly 200 meters above the Kuruksu Plain, calcium-saturated thermal springs cascade down at around 35 degrees Celsius, depositing brilliant white limestone pools that seem to float in the air, a surreal cotton castle formed over millennia. As your guide, I recommend visiting early morning or late afternoon. When light softens on terraces and crowds are thin, many travelers note the first hours after 6:30 a.m. offer solitude and cooler air. For a deeper reflection, Hierapolis is not only a museum but a metaphor. Here, nature gives birth to temples, thermal water heals and sculpts. Beliefs rise and fade, but stones remain. The theater is both stage and shoreline. The Plutonian is gate and grave. The martyr's tomb is both ruin and refuge. These contrasts teach travelers to see beyond the obvious, connecting healing, death, art, technology, and faith as threads in the human journey. Your guide would pause on the terrace edge, barefoot, in warm water, encouraging you to listen. The drip of mineral water, the distant call of birds, the quiet hum of history beneath your skin. This is the healing promised to ancient pilgrims and the wonder awaiting modern visitors. Take into account practical advice. Wear sunscreen, carry water, and respect the tufa surface by walking barefoot where allowed. Certain pools restrict swimming. Observe signage, especially near Cleopatra's Pool, where submerged columns recall ancient stories of royalty dipping into healing springs. Entry via any gate requires a ticket, about 300 TRY, subject to change, and hours vary seasonally, so double-check before your visit. Consider staying overnight in Pamakau village to enjoy thermal spas in peace. After crowds disperse, many nearby hotels, even thermal spa resorts, offer direct views of terraces lit at dusk. A private sunset, framed by stone and steamed out by midday. Guided tours wind through the site. The museum explains everyday objects, but guided storytelling breathes life into stone. I'd share how Epictetus lived nearby, how marble from local quarries adorned Hagia Sophia, and how thermally powered mills carved blocks centuries before modern machines existed. These facts underline Hierapolis's blend of spirituality, commerce, and innovation. As the day ends, wander the silent necropolis once more. With the sulfur-tinged air turning pink, imagine stones whispering in ancient tongues. Hierapolis stands not as a ruin, but as a palimpsest of beliefs and hope, of healing and human imagination. In the end, Hierapolis is more than a stop-on. Your itinerary, it's an invitation to pause, to bathe in time, and to feel the convergence of earth and eternity beneath your feet. Triglav National Park, where mountains keep the old silence in the far northwestern corner of Slovenia, where the borders with Austria and Italy begin to blur, rises a wilderness shaped by ice, wind, and centuries of story. Triglav National Park. This is the only national park in the country, and yet it feels like it holds the soul of Slovenia itself. The park is named after Mount Triglav, the tallest peak in Slovenia at 2,864 meters, and a symbol so cherished that it's emblazoned on the national flag. The mountain's name, meaning three-headed, speaks to its distinctive triple summit and echoes ancient Slavic mythology, where Triglav was believed to be a god watching over the sky, the earth, and the underworld. But to Slovenians, climbing Triglav isn't just a hike, it's a rite of passage. There's a saying, you're not a true Slovenian until you've stood on Triglav. Yet the park is much more than a single peak. It's a sprawling 880 square kilometers of untamed beauty, alpine valleys, cradled by rugged ridges, turquoise, rivers winding through deep gorges, and high meadows where wildflowers bloom like brushstrokes on green canvas. Every path invites slowness. Every silence is a kind of welcome. In the early morning, fog drapes the valleys like a veil of memory. Cowbells echo softly through the stillness. Hikers ascend switchback trails lined with edelweiss and gentians, while golden eagles trace lazy circles in the crisp sky. It's in this quiet that the park's deeper nature reveals itself, not loud or flashy, but ancient, sacred, and rooted. One of the most mesmerizing features here is the Sosa River, born from a hidden spring beneath the mountains and considered one of the most beautiful rivers in Europe. Its color defies logic, an emerald glow so pure, it seems lit from within. As it rushes over rocks, past forests and fields, it carries with it the memory of glaciers, of soldiers, and of silence. This river once ran red. During World War I, the Sosa Valley became the front line of the brutal Isonzo battles between Austro-Hungarian and Italian forces. More than 1 million soldiers fought, and many died along these pristine ridges and riverbanks. Today, trails like the Walk of Peace wind past bunkers, cemeteries, and silent ruins, inviting visitors to reflect on both the brutality of history and the resilience of nature. But Triglav is not just a memorial, it's a living, breathing landscape. In summer, shepherds still lead cattle to the high alpine pastures, where wooden huts called planzarija serve traditional fare. Bovski sir, a tangy sheep cheese, sour milk, and rich stews cooked over wood fires. The pace of life is slow, seasonal, and sacred to the rhythm of the land. Hiking in Triglav can take many forms, from gentle strolls to multi-day traverses across the Julian Alps. Trails are marked, but never hurried. One of the most iconic routes is the Seven Lakes Valley, a breathtaking journey through glacial basins where turquoise waters reflect jagged peaks and clouds drift lazily overhead. At night, when the winds calm and the stars awaken, the lakes become mirrors to the cosmos. Climbers and mountaineers gravitate toward Prasarnik, Mangart, and of course Triglav, often staying in mountain huts called koz, rustic shelters where strangers become friends over shots of borovnik, blueberry schnapps, and steaming bowls of hoda soup. These huts dot the landscape like outposts of warmth, each with its own story, its own view, and its own sky. Winter brings a different kind of silence. Snow settles like a soft hush across the valleys, blanketing forests and smoothing the jagged terrain. Cross-country skiers glide through trails near Pakladuka, a plateau known for its biathlon tracks and thick spruce woods. Ice climbers seek out frozen waterfalls, while red foxes and chamois move quietly through the whitened world. It's cold, yes, but never harsh. The mountains, even in their sleep, feel like guardians. Water is everywhere in Triglav crystal. Springs, hidden waterfalls, glacial lakes, each one a reminder that this land was shaped not just by rock, but by flow. Savika Waterfall, cascading over 70 meters into a perfect turquoise pool, is not only a visual marvel, but also a literary one. It inspired Slovenia's national poet, Franz Prešeren, in his epic The Baptism at the Savika. Locals speak of the park with reverence, not just pride. Many grew up coming here every summer, learning to forage for mushrooms, to spot marmots among the rocks, to read the clouds before a storm. This connection to the land is not performative, it's deeply felt. The park is not a showpiece. It's home, and this home is protected. Triglav National Park operates under strict conservation laws. No new construction, no motorized sports, no mass tourism. The aim is preservation, not profit. Visitors are encouraged to follow the leave no trace ethos, to tread lightly, and to listen, really listen to what the mountains are saying, and they do speak. When dusk falls and the last rays of light catch on the limestone peaks, when the wind quiets and the valley turns blue with shadow, Triglav seems to exhale. A deep breath, ancient and knowing. You realize in that moment that the mountain doesn't need you to conquer it. It only asks you to witness. Here, between ridge and river, stone and sky, you don't just visit Slovenia, you feel its heartbeat. Deep in Slovenia, the Julian Alps rise like a memory. Mount Triglav, the three-headed peak, stands guard over alpine valleys, wildflower meadows, and the emerald Sosa River. This park isn't built for speed, it invites you to slow down. When Fog settles and stars appear. Triglav reveals itself as more than a mountain. It's the still, beating heart of Slovenia, the Julian Alps. Contained within Triglav National Park, Slovenia's only national park, cover nearly 880 square kilometers and encompass hundreds of peaks over 2,000 meters, including Triglav itself at 2,864 meters. As your guide, I'll take you beyond the postcards to moss-draped gorges, glacier-fed lakes, hidden huts, and centuries-old traditions rooted in this land. Squared first, let's wander Vinkar Gorge, just a short hop from Lake Bled. This wooden boardwalk guides you along the fast-carving Radovna River, its milky turquoise water cutting a deep 20 meters chasm lined by waterfalls and mist. A peaceful hike of about 1 mile through vivid canyon walls, a perfect way to ease into the wild beauty of the Julian Alps. I recommend planning a multi-day trek from Vosges Valley up to Triglav, then descending through the Seven Lakes Valley into Behinj. This route, done over 3 days with overnight stays at Planica Hut and one of the lakeside huts, allows you to absorb the alpine panorama at a pace that honors the landscape. You'll pass Periknik and Savica waterfalls, meander through high meadows, and encounter shimmering glacial lakes like Triglavska Jezera, each nested beneath sheer limestone ridges. Born high in mossy cliffs, the Soza flows with impossible clarity. Its emerald waters mirror forests and cliffs. Trout flicker in invisible streams. It once saw the horrors of war, but now flows forward clear, forgiving, and wild. The Soza doesn't rush. It invites you to sit, listen, and remember. Indeed. The Soza River Valley is one of Europe's most spectacular. Hiking along its banks, you'll view gorges sculpted by glacial meltwater and dense forests where light filters softly through moss. The color emerald or aqua, depending on the sun, is so clear you can see riverbed, stones 15 feet down. You'll also encounter historic relics like the World War I trenches along the Kolovrat Ridge, part of the Walk of Peace. In 1916, Russian prisoners painstakingly built the road up Verzik Pass, zigzagging across 50 curves to over 1,600 meters. Now visitors can follow those same switchbacks on foot or in a vehicle, stepping into both geology and history. Squared beyond the trails lies Vogel Ski Center, perched silently above Lake Behinj. There are no snow cannons, no garish signage, just natural slopes and wooden signage blends. This eco-friendly resort reflects Slovenians' commitment to preserving mountain integrity. Artificial snow is banned inside the park to protect early spring blooms. Skiing here feels like part of nature, not an interruption. Wildlife thrives in this biodiverse sanctuary. The park supports over 7,000 animal species and 1,600 plant species, including brown bears, wolves, lynx, and rare alpine flora. Hikers often glimpse chamois, marmots, and golden eagles. The forests echo with wind through pines and the hum of insects beside hidden alpine streams. Allow me to share some personal moments. Trekking just before dawn along Seven Lakes Valley, the mist curling over water so still it seemed glass-like. The air smelled of thawing snow and wildflower honey. At a shepherd's hut, I heard a keen-eyed local greet me with a flask of herbal tea and stories of mountain legends. The hospitality is as high altitude as the peaks. Mountain huts themselves are part of the experience. Dorm beds run about. €20 and hearty meals, barley stew, sausage, schnapps fuel your ascent. Be prepared. Book your hut in advance, especially midweek when locals also head to the mountains. Camping is not allowed in the park. Please respect local guidelines. If cycling is more your rhythm, the park offers over 1,000 kilometers of designated mountain bike trails. From gentle rides near Behinj to tougher loops across Pakluka Plateau, biking in the Julian Alps is both exhilaration and respect for nature. Trails are carefully regulated to avoid disturbing sensitive habitats. But for hikers seeking a longer journey, there's the Juliana Trail, a 270 kilometers loop encircling Triglav National Park in 16 stages connecting Slovenia's alpine treasures. It's a low-impact way to explore multiple valleys, lakes and cultural stops like Kranjska Gora, Mostrana with its alpine museum, and the church island of Lake Bled. Local culture adds depth. The Slovenian love of bees traces back centuries. In the alpine valleys, beekeeping remains a proud tradition. Apiaries. Farmsteads, and children learn to tend hives before reading school. In spring, wildflower honey and potica cake become celebratory staples. The local gastronomy is equally rooted. Zlikrofi, potato bacon dumplings, karst prosciutto, plum brandy, and mountain trout fresh from the Soza, farm stays and tourist. Farms offer homemade breakfasts and outdoor experiences, from horseback riding to berry picking. Winter transforms the park into a silent frozen cathedral. Snowshoeing across Pokljuka or cross-country skiing at Vogel's eco-friendly resort reveals a different beauty. Vast white plains, smoke drifting from wood-fired chalets, and trails muffled in snow. Cross-country festivals in March celebrate the park's centennial and community-driven alpine heritage. Y-cubed, yet even in winter, flowers bloom. Slovenes preserve snow and foil to keep trails alive. Into spring, a tangible commitment to seasonal balance and sustainability. Huif, let me paint. One final scene. Late evening at Lake Buhinj, the shoreline edged with dusk. A gentle breeze ripples the surface, the Church of St. John the Baptist reflected in teal water. A few brave souls pedal silently in SUPs. Mountains rise into violet shadows, and overhead, stars pulse in the clear, unpolluted air. That is Triglav National Park, where silence is not absence, but presence. Where mountain and river flow together in ancient rhythm. Where every path is invitation, every view a poem. Here, you don't just visit, you listen, slow down, and become part of the story. Soza River, where water remembers the mountains born in the high, moss-covered cliffs beneath Mount Triglav. The Soza River begins not with a roar, but with a whisper. Its waters emerge cold, clear, and impossibly turquoise, like a vein of liquid gemstone winding through the heart of the Julian Alps. This is not an ordinary river. It's a living story of war and peace, of ice and time, of healing and awe. To stand beside the Soza is to witness nature at its most honest. Its emerald tones seem unreal at first, like they've been filtered and painted. But they're not. The color comes from fine particles of limestone suspended in the glacial. Meltwater particles ground over centuries by the slow press of ice against rock. This water remembers the mountains it came from. It carries their story in every ripple. The river stretches roughly 138 kilometers, from its alpine birthplace in northwestern Slovenia to the Adriatic Sea in Italy. But its soul lives in its upper course, where it tumbles through gorges, curls past sleepy meadows, and reflects the untouched beauty of Triglav National Park. Here, everything feels ancient yet wild, gentle yet powerful. As you walk along its banks or sit quietly by its side, you begin to understand why poets, painters, and adventurers have been drawn here for centuries. Even the silence sounds different, crisper, fuller. It's as if the mountains around you absorb every echo and offer it back softened, purified. The Soza doesn't rush. It flows with a patience that seems almost wise, inviting you not to conquer the land, but to listen to it. Fly fishers wade quietly into the stream in search of the elusive marble trout, an endemic species found almost nowhere else in the world. Their movements are meditative, gentle, and respectful. The river doesn't give up its treasures easily. It demands stillness, attention, presence. During the warmer months, kayakers and rafters from around the world come to dance with the Sazaz. Swells, The river offers both gentle curves and Class 4 rapids, adrenaline and grace in equal measure. Yet even in its wildest parts, the Souza retains its clarity. You can see the riverbed even as the current pulls hard. It's like riding through glass dot, but the Souza's beauty isn't just physical. Beneath its surface lies history, deep, layered, and sometimes sorrowful. During World War I, this valley was the site of the infamous Isonzo Front, one of the longest and bloodiest mountain warfare campaigns in human history. Over 300,000 soldiers died here, many of them along these very banks. Trenches still scar the hillsides. Quiet cemeteries nestle among wildflowers. If you listen closely, you might feel it, the weight of memory beneath the serenity. Yet the river has not grown bitter. It flows forward clear, forgiving, and wild. Perhaps that's why so many come not only to photograph it, but to heal beside it. The Souza doesn't tell you what to feel. It simply holds space for whatever you bring to it. Local folklore adds another layer to this landscape. According to legend, the river was once guarded by a mighty dragon that slept in the caves beneath the cliffs. When angered, it would cause floods and thunder. But the dragon was not cruel, only protective. It watched over the land, ensuring that only those who came with respect could pass. Even today, many locals speak of the river with reverence, not possession. Towns like Bovec, Kobarid, and Talman's small alpine settlements scattered along the Souza's course offer a gateway to the river's heart. In Bovec, adrenaline meets alpine charm. Here you'll find mountain guides, paragliders, and canyoning experts ready to take you deep into the region's secret ravines and waterfalls. In Talman, the river slows, winding through narrow gorges and underground springs. There, you can soak in thermal pools hidden under mossy cliffs, where the only sound is dripping water and the occasional flutter of wings. Kobarid is perhaps the most haunting. Once a battlefield, it's now home to the Kobarid Museum, a powerful tribute to the lives lost in the Isonzo campaigns. Ernest Hemingway passed through here during the war, and later wrote A Farewell to Arms, a novel that captures both the horror and beauty of this place. Walk through the museum, then step outside and gaze upon the calm, clear Souza, and you may feel what Hemingway once did. That beauty and pain often flow side by side. Yet no matter how you approach it, by paddle, by boot, or by breath, Souza leaves its mark. It's not just a place to visit. It's a place to return to within yourself. Even its tributaries feel enchanted. The Great Souza Gorge, a narrow ribbon of stone carved by the river's passage, glows with turquoise light, especially in early morning. From certain angles, it looks like a portal to another world. The La Pena Valley, a side valley of untouched pine forests and waterfalls, is a hiker's dream. The Seven Lakes Valley, high above in the Julian Alps, feeds the river with glacial waters that taste like snow. But the most moving moments are often the quietest ones. A reflection of sky in a still pool, the soft thump of wet stones underfoot, the way your breath slows without you realizing. The Souza is not loud. It does not demand attention. It reveals itself slowly, like a friend who prefers presence to performance. Locals have a saying: the Souza doesn't flow through the land, it flows through the heart. And if you let it, it will flow through yours too. Because this is not just a river. It is memory, movement, and meaning. It is Slovenia's wild hymn, sung in turquoise and stone. And it will stay with you long after your footprints vanish from its banks. Nestled at roughly 3,656 meters above sea level in the Bolivian Altiplano, Salar de Uyuni spans over 10,582 square kilometers, making it the largest salt flat on Earth. Born from the evaporation of prehistoric lakes some 40,000 years ago, its surface is astonishingly flat. Variations are often under 1 meter, across 129 kilometers. As a guide who's walked it in both wet and dry seasons, I'll tell you, The Salar transforms profoundly depending on when you arrive. During the rainy season, December to April, a shallow layer of water drapes the salt crust like polished glass, creating the world's largest mirror. The horizon dissolves, sky and ground merge perfectly, and you feel as if you're walking on clouds. I stood there on a March evening. The pink clouds reflected beneath our feet, and for a few timeless moments, gravity seemed optional. In contrast, the dry season, May to November, reveals a bleached expanse of crystalline, hexagon salt polygons stretched as far as the eye can see. Here, you can drive across the entire plain, visit Isla Nkawasi, a cactus-dotted outcrop rising from the salt sea, and indulge in playful perspective shots. People appear to be tiny or floating above cars in carefully arranged compositions. A guide's job is to help you choose your season, your pace, your angle, and prepare you physically. At nearly 3,700 meters elevation, altitude is real. Headaches can strike unexpectedly. I always recommend coca tea, moderate acclimatization, and planning stops at Uuni town to rest. Uuni serves as the main gateway hotel, some markets, and even salt block hotels like Palacio de Sal await newcomers. As your guide, I'd advise starting with an overnight bus or short flight from La Paz. Buses take 8 to 10 hours and arrive early, giving you time for a half-day excursion. Flights are about 1 hour, but more expensive. Once in Uyuni, I can help you choose between a shared 3-day tour or a private itinerary. Shared tours cost roughly $150 to $250 United States dollars per person and cover major highlights. Private ones give flexibility for sunrise mirror walks or intensive photography sessions. On day 1, we typically visit the train cemetery just outside Unia, a haunting field of abandoned locomotives rusting under cobalt sky. Then, we venture onto the salt to witness the hexagonal patterns and open horizon. If you're visiting in the dry season, we'll head to Isla Nkawasi, climb among giant cactus reaching up to 10 meters tall, and take in the panoramic salt plain views, all while I share geological lore and local myths of Tunupa goddess and the creation of the Salar from her tears and milk. By sunset, the Salar glows golden. If weather aligns, pristine reflections appear, and I'll guide you through creative photo illusions, footsteps frozen in salt, shadows reaching into infinity. At night, I recommend and sometimes arrange a starlight tour. Under pitch black skies, the Milky Way arcs overhead. Because Salar has almost no light pollution, the stars explode in clarity. With a headlamp, we sometimes set up props for surreal long exposure shots. The salt glowing beneath cosmic dust. Day 2 leads us into the Eduardo Avaroa Andean Fauna National Reserve. Think Laguna Colorada, a red lake painted by microorganisms and bordered by pink flamingos. Laguna Verde, tipped green by copper minerals. And plumes of steam at Sol de Manana Geyser, at nearly 5,000 meters elevation. These high-altitude lagoons bristle with wildlife. Andean, Chilean, and James's flamingos feed in shallow waters, while vicucas graze on sparse highland grasses. Guides share local Aymara traditions and ecological significance as we pause beside fields of borax crystals and solitary rock formations like the Stone Tree in Siloli Desert. Accommodation varies. Basic shelters under shared tours. Warm sleeping. Bags recommended. Or if you prefer comfort, salt hotels like Palacio de Sal, built entirely from salt blocks, walls, beds, even furniture offer a unique overnight stay just 25 kilometers from Uyuni town. Even so, I caution, don't lick the salt walls. That rule exists, and tipping staff is encouraged for good service. Packing smart is essential. Even in daytime sun, the altitude intensifies UV rays reflected off the white salt. I always pack a high SPF sunblock, wide brim hat, sunglasses, and even a buff and gloves for sunrise or starlight hours. Nights can drop to well below freezing even. Minus 10 degrees Celsius, so thermal layers and wool hat are non-negotiable. And cash in bolivianos, you'll need it for entrance fees to Nkawasi, approximately equals BS 30. Eduardo Avaroa Reserve, approximately equals BS 150. And hot springs or toilets along the route. By day 3, our guides often coordinate visits to hot springs, another star-watching location. Before returning to Uruni town sometimes, catching sunsets over the salt plain, or final reflections before departure. Above all, I emphasize respect for this fragile ecosystem. Stick to designated paths, avoid leaving trash, and support local. Cooperatives in Colchini, where salt is sustainably harvested and forms the heart of local industry. Visiting Colchini Market, you can taste llama stew or chiru soup, meet artisans and understand salt's economic and cultural value. On a deeper level, Salar de Uyuni is more than a flat of salt. It is an echo of ancient lakes, a cradle of lithium that powers modern devices, and a place that humbles you. Beneath the crust lie brine pools containing nearly 70% of the world's lithium reserves, turning this white desert into a keystone of global energy discussion. But as travelers, we come not for lithium, but for silence, for reflection, for the sensation of merging with Sky. As a guide, I aim to help you feel that magic, not just photograph it. When you step barefoot on the crust, feel the cold salt grains, gaze up at infinite stars, you sense something elemental. Salar de Uyuni doesn't shout, it waits. And if you stand still, truly still, it might just speak back. Socotra, Earth's most alien island, lies in the Arabian Sea, a remote jewel nearer to Somalia than Yemen. A land of dragon blood trees and surreal shapes sculpted by wind. Over a third of its plant species are found nowhere else. No signs, no crowds, only silence, ancient paths, and colors no photo can capture. Socotra doesn't announce itself. It unfolds for those willing to let go of the world they knew. As your guide, I'll walk you through what makes this island unforgettable. Its landscapes, its people, its survival in the face of change. Dragon's blood trees and endemic flora in the Dixon Plateau and Firmaheen Forest. The umbrella-shaped Dracaena cinnabari trees tower in a forest that feels prehistoric. Their red resin, once prized in ancient trade, is still harvested carefully by locals. These trees capture humidity and create an ecosystem that shelters numerous endemic species. The island boasts over 825 plant species, with 37% endemism, a proportion rivaled only by Galapagos or Madagascar. You'll also see bottle trees, desert roses, frankincense and cucumber trees, each a sculpted testament to survival in drought and wind. Wild landscapes. Beaches and lagoons. Socotra's coastline is shaped by a mosaic of lunar white dunes, limestone, cliffs, and hidden lagoons. At Detwa Lagoon, a protected Ramsar site, saline waters guard seagrass meadows where rays, puffers, and Socotra cormorants feed, plus Egyptian vultures nest nearby. Nearby Kalanzia Beach stretches in pristine solitude. Water turquoise, the sand soft, the cliffs framing the horizon like stage sets. Eastern sands at Arhur Dunes glow amber at dawn. At night, the waves bioluminesce in ghostly blues. Marine riches and caves. Saltwater meets reef in the Dahamri Marine Reserve, home to coral gardens, reef sharks, turtles, and endemic fish like the Socotra blenny and grouper. Inland lies the largest cave in the Middle East, Hope Cave, with ancient inscriptions, stalactites, and glimpses into Socotra's human and geological history. Wildlife and birdlife. Socotra supports multiple endemic birds like the Socotra starling, sunbird, bunting, sparrow, and grosbeak. The starling nests exclusively in dragon's blood trees, feeding on their berries and helping to disperse seeds. Among mammals, the only endemic one is the Socotran pipistrelle, a small endangered bat found nowhere else. Culture and the Socotri people. Socotra's roughly 60,000 to 100,000 residents, speak the ancient Socatri language, older than Arabic, and follow ancestral traditions of fishing, date farming, and goat herding. Hospitality is warm, shared meals of saltastew or freshly grilled fish served in floor-cushioned majlises under frankincense trees. Craft traditions include fine woven baskets and textiles, all preserving cultural memory. Ecotourism and Conservation Socotra is designated a UNESCO Natural World Heritage Site since 2008 and a Biosphere Reserve since 2003. And Detwa Lagoon is a Ramsar wetland since 2007. Visit with responsible operators who avoid single-use plastics, stick to trails, and respect protected species. Programs such as Dragon Tree Nurseries and the Socatri Language Audio Archive reflect both local and global stewardship efforts. Practical notes: when and how to visit. Best travel season runs from October through April. Mild, calm seas, ideal for hikes, diving, and birdwatching. Avoid the monsoon months of June-September, when heavy rains and winds hamper access and safety. Access is limited. Weekly flights from Abu Dhabi or Cairo, operated through licensed Yemeni consular channels. Independent entry is not permitted. You must book through official operators who secure visas and permissions. Route and immersive experience. Your journey may begin in Hadabo, the island's modest capital, or the quieter village of Kalanzia. From there, you may join an eco-camp or mobile tent lodge that moves across the island, following seasonal wadi pools and camping beneath dragon blood forests in remote highlands. Guides such as Salem Ahmed and local elders like Suleiman provide not only navigation but stories about plant lore, language, and disappearing ecosystems. Expect dusty 4x4 rides across wadi beds, scenic hikes into the Hajir Mountains, dips in Ham Hill natural pools, snorkels at coral reefs, and storytelling nights around clay stoves warmed by frankincense smoke. You'll literally follow footprints that trace millennia of natural and human history, challenges, and fragility. Though relatively safe from mainland conflict, Socotra remains politically fragile. Reports point to growing influence from foreign powers, unauthorized land sales, and unsanctioned tourism ventures undermining both sovereignty and ecosystem health. Climate change is intensifying cyclones that topple dragon trees, while feral goats munch on seedlings, both threats deeply harming. Regeneration. Sustainable tourism must be intentional, community-centered, and firmly rooted in conservation. Personal reflection from your guide. Walking under the gnarled crowns of dragon's blood trees, you sense time differently. There is a hushed sense of listening rather than looking. The sky feels closer. The air tastes ancient as you dig toes into the warm sand of Kalanzia or wade through the jade-green lagoon. Every detail becomes alive: tiny ghost crabs, coral fish flicking in sunbeams, whispered words of locals recounting legends. You realize that Socotra isn't just scenery, it's a living museum of evolution, culture, and hope. And if you tread lightly, it might reveal its soul. Highlights recap iconic flora and fauna, dragon's blood trees, endemic birds and bats, landscape diversity, plateaus, dunes, beaches, caves, marine reserves. Rich culture, Socatri language, traditional crafts, heartfelt hospitality, conservation ethos, UNESCO status, local nurseries, sustainable tour models. Best time, October-April. Access via licensed operators only. Fragile beauty. Threatened by climate change, tourism pressure, political instability. Socotra remains a secret chapter of Earth's narrative, a place where geography, tradition, and vulnerability converge. As your guide, my hope is that this island stays wild. Its stories remain vibrant, and every visitor departs with reverence, not just for its landscapes, but for the stewardship it demands. Svalbard, where ice holds time still. Way up north, on Spitsbergen in the Norwegian Arctic, this remote archipelago stretches toward the North Pole, where polar silence meets endless horizons. Winter here is endless. Glaciers breathe ancient memories, and in summer, wildflowers bloom beneath the midnight sun. While in winter the sea bears, polar bears, and aurora borealis dances overhead. Imagine arriving at Longyearbyen, the only sizable settlement on Svalbard, with about 3,000 residents. Flights land here regularly despite its position at 78 North. From here, Svalbard becomes your gateway to one of Earth's most fragile and beautiful ecosystems. One of the most compelling landmarks is the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, a fortress carved more than 120 meters into sandstone, deep in a mountain plateau near Longyearbyen. Opened in February 2008, it safeguards over 1.3 million seed samples from nearly every country, more than 6,200 plant species representing 13,000 years of agricultural history. Its mission is simple yet profound: to ensure that humanity can regenerate its food crops if local collections fail. As a tour guide, I often describe the Seed Vault as the Earth's insurance policy. Its passive and mechanical cooling systems maintain -18 degrees Celsius, supported by natural permafrost that can preserve seeds even if power is lost for weeks or centuries. The facility is sometimes called the Doomsday Vault, but it's designed less for apocalypse than to protect against war, natural disasters, or infrastructure failures that jeopardize biodiversity. At least one withdrawal from Syria's Icarta collection restored critical wheat varieties during conflict, proving the vault's purpose. Most visitors won't enter the vault itself. It opens only about 3 times a year to minimize risk. Instead, travelers pause at its stark entrance, framed by the art installation Perpetual Repercussion, a fiber optic sculpture by Devaki San that catches polar light and marks the site from afar. But Svalbard is more than a seed bank. The surrounding wildness is its soul. Cruise and expedition travelers often arrive on sustainable vessels designed for low emissions, powered by solar or wind energy, balancing Arctic tourism with environmental care. From Longyearbyen, guided hikes lead across tundra to ice caves, while dog sled and snowmobile expeditions venture into landscapes where glaciers meet sea and polar bears roam in relative peace. I explained to guests that Svalbard is unique in its accessible isolation. You need no visa to stay. Anyone may live and work here indefinitely, though travel via mainland Norway still requires Schengen clearance if applicable. Life is shaped by extremes. In midwinter, the sun vanishes for months. In summer, it never sets, casting 24-hour golden light over glaciers and fjords. In town, the Svalbard Museum offers deep context exhibits trace Spitsbergen's history from whalers and coal miners to scientists and modern travelers. It's a place where culture and extreme environment intersect, helping visitors understand how humans survive and adapt here. You learn about coal mining, Arctic exploration, and climate research, all anchored in the surrounding wilderness. For a taste of local life, I might take a group to Svalbard Brewery, the world's northernmost brewery. Established in 2015, it brews beer using glacier melt water, some from ice more than 2,000 years old. Tasting a Spitsbergen IPA gives a surprising sense of place, crisp, cold, and unmistakably Arctic. During the long dark season, Longyearbyen's Dark Season Blues Festival breathes warmth into the cold. Held each October, its stages light up bars and venues in a blaze of music and community, while outside the polar night deepens. It's a reminder that humans bring color and rhythm into even the darkest seasons. As your guide, I emphasize that climate change is no abstract concept here. It's visible in melting glaciers, shifting tundra vegetation, and even in wildlife behavior. Reindeer move farther inland, and polar bears venture closer to towns in search of food as sea ice recedes. Local life adapts. Green shrubs appear where only moss and lichen once grew, and the fragile ecosystem keeps changing. Svalbard appeals to those who seek something extraordinary, not a luxury resort, but an elemental rawness. Each walk across permafrost, each glance at drifting icebergs, each night under the northern lights is a conversation with nature at its most intense and intimate. When guiding a glacier walk, I remind visitors that the ice itself is history. Ancient snow compressed into silence. You hear it creak, feel it breathe. On boat trips, seals and walrus may surface off the fjords, while seabirds wheel overhead. Every moment feels charged with the slow passage of geological time and the urgency of present transformation. On quieter days, I take travelers out to nearby tundra where Arctic poppies and saxifrage cling to rocky ground. We talk about resilience, how life emerges in thin soil, and how human resilience reflects what we store in that seed vault. As insurance for generations will never meet. Although Svalbard remains a wilderness, comfort exists here too, heaters and modern amenities in Longyearbyen, cozy wooden Svalbard church built in 1958, seating about 140, offering solace during the brutal seasons. A spiritual pause in a place that often feels otherworldly. In guiding guests, I stress ethical travel. Stay on marked routes, respect wildlife, especially polar bears, minimize waste, and support conservation-minded operators. Even as tourism grows, visitors can help sustain Svalbard's fragile balance. In the end, Svalbard isn't just a place, it's a teacher. You arrive expecting frozen silence, but you leave carrying a story engraved in rock, ice, and seed. You stand at the edge of human presence, a place where time slows, threats are ancient and new, and hope is stored quietly inside a mountain. Kyoto, where stillness becomes sacred. In Japan's mist-wrapped hills, Kyoto's temples whisper in wood and stone. Bamboo groves sway, wind chimes echo, and each fallen leaf feels like a quiet prayer. Golden pavilions float above tranquil waters, silver ones fade into peaceful gardens. Yet Kyoto's true spirit lives in the spaces between, in silence, breath, and stillness. Peace here is not declared, it is felt. Begin early, ideally before dawn, to beat crowds at iconic temples. Kiyomizu-dera, perched on its hillside stage without a single nail, opens around 6 to 7 a.m. As daylight softens over the city below, the temple's wooden veranda and Otoa waterfall become utterly serene, free from midday tour buses and souvenir hawkers. Locals and early risers speak of this special window. Anything before 8 a.m. should be relatively peaceful. Next, wander the Philosopher's Walk just beyond Ginkaku-ji, the Silver Pavilion. Lined with cherry trees and mossy stones, this canal-side path feels meditative, especially when gardens are unfurling in spring or autumn hues. The walk links Ginkaku-ji with hidden shrines and quiet courtyard gardens that few tourists ever pause to admire. At Ginkaku-ji, the Silver Pavilion, you'll find a temple founded in 1490 during the Higashiyama culture period. Though never covered in silver, its understated architecture, Zen gardens, and reflective ponds evoke refined simplicity. Venture onward to Kinkaku-ji, the Golden Pavilion. Covered in gold leaf and surrounded by a shimmering Kyoko-ki pond, it presents 3 architectural styles across its tiers. Avoid peak crowds by visiting early morning or late afternoon on weekdays. The reflected light across the pond enhances the effect. For less common angles, try Anmintaku Pond or ascend Goten Yama Hill for framed views with greenery foregrounds. Don't rush. Set aside time to pause by the moss gardens of Ryongga and to sit quietly at the Zen rock layout of 15 stones on white gravel. Here, the garden becomes a meditation space where your mind stills in the dust and stone. A short train or ride away, Tenriji in Arashiyama anchors a tranquil riverside district. Founded in the 14th century, its Sogenchi Garden is a registered special place of scenic beauty, a calming blend of water reflections and explorable terrain. The nearby Arashiyama Bamboo Grove is best experienced right at opening before crowds fill the paths. You'll feel lost in a cathedral of towering green stalks lit by dappled morning light. Moving beyond the typical itinerary, climb the hill to Dago-ji, a hilltop temple founded in 874 CE, home to Kyoto's oldest surviving pagoda. Its gardens erupt in cherry blossom pinks in spring and fiery maple red in autumn. Peace reigns above the bustle of the city below. Northwest of the city, Kozanji Temple offers rare Heian period ink scrolls and national treasures such as the Chu-Jinbutsu-giga, with far fewer crowds found among the temple's older, forested trails for cultural immersion. Stroll through Nishiki Market, the kitchen of Kyoto, even in gentle rain. Its covered corridors brim with local flavor, pickles, seasonal snacks, handcrafted knives, and century-old needle shops like those with serene courtyard gardens hidden behind flapping curtains. Nearby in Higashiyama, you'll find traditional crafts galleries such as Rokoroku-do and Gallery Yamahan, blending ancient art with modern design. Balance popular sites with hidden gems. Visit the Moss Temple Saiho Ji Kokadera. Buy prior reservation for an intimate garden experience unlike the tourist throng. Or plan a bicycle tour into Kyoto's lesser-known neighborhoods, where quiet temples and artisan workshops await beyond the usual route. Timing is key. Peak seasons, cherry blossom spring and autumn foliage bring floods of visitors, so aim for early winter or late autumn for both lower rates and deeper silence. On weekdays, crowds thin noticeably compared to weekends, and you're more likely to walk alone through temple grounds. Inside temples, respect counts. Remove shoes when required, speak softly, and avoid selfie-driven disruption, even locals. Hope the admission fee is part of an act of reverence, not entertainment. As the sun sinks, return to quieter pockets like the gardens behind Nenenzaka and Senenzaka near Yasaka Shrine. At twilight, lamp-lit tea houses and narrow alleys feel suspended in time. Gion may buzz with anticipation, but even here, peace arrives with the dusk. Throughout your journey, you'll sense something beyond beauty. Kyoto is a city of centuries, each temple a living chapter in Japan's unfolding story. Traditional crafts like Nisi-jin weaving, tea ceremony rooms by Sen no Rikyu, connected with Myokian Temple, and local artists such as untamed reflect Kyoto's current creative pulse tied to its imperial past. In these moments, stripping away novelty, you begin to feel Kyoto's essence, subtle, measured, endlessly deep. Here, stillness is not absence. It is presence. Stone, wood, and garden do not shout. They invite you to sit, breathe, listen. Golden light glints in the pond. Bamboo rustles, temple bells chime at dusk, and you become part of a sacred pace. Torres del Paine, where wind sculpts giants and silence thunders at the world's edge. Torres del Paine rises, raw, unfiltered Patagonia. The three granite towers stand like ancient guardians, surrounded by turquoise lakes, wind-lashed valleys, and storm-twisted forests. Here, clouds move like rivers, the wind speaks in sacred howls, and glaciers groan with life. Guanacos drift like echoes of the past. Condors trace the sky, and the land dares you to enter. To walk here is to face your own smallness, and in that, find clarity. As the sun ignites the towers in fire, you realize this isn't just a destination. It's a revelation. From my first step onto the trail from Puerto Natales, the landscape announces itself not with fanfare, but with a hush of ancient power. The Patagonian wind sweeps across Laguna Pejo, stirring the milky turquoise water and unsettling the reflection of the towers beyond. As we thread the dirt track toward Base Las Torres, each kilometer brings sharpened granite peaks, and the horizon opens into a panorama you thought only existed in dreams. At midday, the three granite towers, Tor Central, Tor Sur, and Tor Norte, rise vertically, sheer and regal, as if carved by the gods. Their pinkish granite face glows softly in the afternoon sun, then burns golden when the light shifts. The towers stand like ancient guardians, monoliths of time and rock that survived ice ages, windstorms, and time itself. They are the emotional heart of the park, drawing thousands but remaining eternally dignified. About 9 kilometers in, the path climbs through scrubland and lenga forest. The wind dances through the lenga leaves, creating a soundscape of rustling prayer flags. Wildflowers, violet lupins, yellow calceolarias dot the forest floor in summer, offering color in contrast to the rugged peaks above. Each step you take is a dialogue with centuries. You walk a glacial moraine, toes crunching on ancient ice-smoothed stones. Emerging above the tree line, the valley opens onto Laguna Torres, a mirror lake at the foot of the towers. The air is thinner, the wind more insistent. No voices can be heard here, only breath and heartbeat. That first glimpse of the towers reflected in crystal water is a sacred moment. Geometry of earth and sky, hollow and full at once. From the shore of the lake, you approach the base camp, then scramble upward through scree and granite steps. Your calves burn, lungs strain, but the view draws you upward. At the final vantage point, you stand beneath the towers themselves, looking up 2,000 feet of vertical stone. In that moment, gravity shifts, I swear even the wind bows. Here, the silence thunders. You feel the wind's force, a living presence that whips your jacket and demands attention. You hear glaciers groaning far above, see floating icebergs in the lake, and sense centuries of geological motion. Guanacos graze in the distance. Curious but wary, they've seen human footprints come and go. This isn't just a view, it's a reckoning. You stand small beneath unbreakable towers, and yet you feel larger than before. Patagonia asks, how much courage do you have? Can you witness untamed beauty without scaring it away? Can you honor silence without needing noise? As a guide, I often pause here to remind folks, the towers were named by the first French explorers, but the native Tehuelche people called this land blue sky. And indeed, the sky over Torres del Paine can shift from cobalt to gunmetal in minutes. Weather is both guide and challenge. Clear mornings are followed by afternoon squalls. Snow sometimes falls in summer. For this reason, hikers learn humility fast here. Back at camp, beneath the W.O. circuit, we continue to Torres del Paine's other marvels. Gray Glacier, a massive ice field that fills Gray Lake with giant icebergs. You can kayak between them or hike above, hearing ice calve deep in the fjord. The glacier's movement is slow, yet unmistakable. A glacier is geography in motion. Then there's Valle del Frances, where granite spires and hanging glaciers frame high mountain passes. The walls sometimes drip meltwater, glowing turquoise. In the sun, in the heart of the valley, you may spot Andean condors riding thermals, wings spanning over 3 meters. Their silhouettes remind you, the view is bigger than you dot in evenings. Reflections dance across Lago Nordensco, and the forest hushes under the glow of the Southern Cross. If the wind is calm, the towers reflect perfectly in the lake, and you realize you're in a place that defines solitude. Winds here are legendary. Paine means blue in the native Aoni Kenk language, but the blue also refers to storm blue storms that sweep Patagonia. I've watched hikers huddle in camps while gusts push them back. The wind is respect incarnate, shaping trails, bending trees, scouring valleys clean. And yet, without it, the lakes would not be turquoise, glaciers would not float in striped currents, and the towers would lose their sharp edges to erosion. Always emphasize cultural connections. The Tehuelche and Kaveskar people lived here for millennia, tracking guanacos, reading wind and moonlight. Modern tourism respects this heritage. Park signage, permits, and responsible camping are enforced to protect both nature and culture. My guests learn about Cerro Paine Grande, ascended only by experienced climbers, or the remote Gray Hut, harboring memories of early explorers and scientific studies of glacial melt. one of the most moving experiences, especially for first-time visitors, is summiting Mirador Cuernos on the eastern side. From there, you view the dramatic horn-shaped peaks, glowing red and glinting like copper in afternoon light. The juxtaposition of granite and volcanic rock reminds you geography uses every tone. During sunset at Refugio Pejo, the towers erupt in vivid orange. Guides often hold silence, then no commentary, just reverence. In that silence, the park speaks. I always explain the environmental challenges. Climate change is shrinking glaciers. Trails erode under heavy foot traffic, and seasonal regulations limit group sizes. Visitors are urged to practice leave no trace, carry out their waste, use eco-refugios responsibly, and stick to designated trails. All of this because Torres del Paine is not just scenery, it's a living ecosystem, fragile yet implacable. On clear nights, the southern hemisphere sky dazzles with stars Milky Way arcing overhead, Magellanic clouds drifting. We gather by the lake to Stargazi, and people gasp at constellations invisible in northern latitudes. The wind finally dies. The forest hushes, and you feel infinite. Torres del Paine is more than an itinerary stop. It's a pilgrimage of wind, stone, water, sky. It's a place that demands reverence, supplies perspective, and rewards those who tread with care. As a guide, I witness guests change here. Their voices soften, their pace slows, their attention sharpens. In closing, we return beneath the towers for a final dawn. The towers glow again, but now you know their story. Carved by glaciers, named by explorers, sacred to nomadic peoples. You've walked among guanacos, paddled turquoise lakes, felt wind like prophecy. You've stood before that granite cathedral and realized the world can still be raw, wild, true, and that revelation, sense of awe and clarity, is the gift Torres del Paine gives you, if only you are willing to listen. Trolltunga, where the earth dares the sky. Trolltunga, where myths lean into the clouds. In the wild heights of western Norway, where glaciers once carved silence into stone, a narrow tongue of rock juts defiantly into the sky. This is the Troll's Tongue, a ledge of raw granite suspended 700 meters above the shimmering mirror of Lake Ringdalsvatn. It looks like something pulled from a dream, a place where gravity forgets itself, and the earth dares you to step into legend. To reach this place, you don't just hike, you earn it. The 28-kilometer round-trip trek begins near the town of Skigedal and demands endurance, preparation, and respect. The trail is long, remote, and wild. There are no gondolas or shortcuts, no food stalls or shelters. Just you, the mountain, and your will. And yet, every step reveals more of what Norway hides best: sweeping alpine views, deep valleys, icy streams, and a silence that feels ancient. This is not a walk in the park. Weather here is a living force. Sunshine can turn to snow in an hour. In summer, daylight lingers into the night, allowing hikers to start early and return late. In autumn, frost paints the moss and lichen in delicate whites, and the landscape glows under a soft northern light. Still, you must be ready physically. Mentally, the trail is demanding, with steep climbs and long, exposed ridges. But for those who make it, Trolltunga offers more than a view. It offers perspective. Standing on the ledge, there are no fences, no barriers, only stone and air. The drop is sheer. Your heartbeat quickens. It's not fear, it's awe. The wind moves around you like a spirit, and far below, the lake stretches like polished obsidian. You realize nature doesn't try to impress, it simply is. And in that stillness, something in you shifts. But what makes Trolltunga truly unique isn't just the scenery, it's the way it fuses geology with mythology. Formed during the Ice Age, this cliff was carved by glacial pressure over 10,000 years ago. Layers of hard gneiss resisted erosion, leaving behind this dramatic overhang. Yet in Norwegian folklore, logic gives way to story. Some say it's the tongue of a troll, frozen in stone by the rising sun. Others believe it was once a sacred place for the Sami people, whose shamanic practices honored the spirits of land and sky. You don't have to believe in trolls to feel their presence. The mountains here feel alive. The landscape doesn't just surround you, it watches. Norway is filled with places that blur the line between real and mythical, but few hold that tension quite like Trolltunga. It's where story and stone become the same thing. Every year, thousands attempt the hike. Some come for the thrill, some for the photo, but most, perhaps unknowingly, come for something deeper, a confrontation with scale. The ledge is small, the world is vast. You're a dot in a colossal frame of rock, water, and sky. But in that smallness, there's clarity. Trolltunga doesn't make you feel less, it reminds you what matters. Even the journey itself reshapes you. You begin tired, unsure, but as you ascend, something changes. Your breath finds rhythm. Your feet learn patience. You learn to read the clouds, to listen to the stones, to trust the silence. And somewhere along the trail, you realize the mountain isn't trying to defeat you, it's revealing you to yourself. For Norwegians, nature isn't a place you visit, it's a part of who you are. The concept of friluftsliv, life in the open air, is embedded in their culture. Trolltunga embodies this perfectly. It's not about conquering the wild, but coexisting with it. To walk this trail is to join a dialogue with the land. One spoken not in words, but in wind, snow, and granite. In recent years, growing popularity has raised concerns about sustainability. Local authorities now manage access, offer guided tours, and encourage responsible hiking practices. There are signs reminding you, take nothing, leave nothing. Respect the trail, respect the time, because this place is not a theme park. It is not designed. It is not owned. It is a gift, and it changes with each visit. In early summer, snow still clings to the path, melting into crystalline streams. In late August, wildflowers bloom in pockets of green between the rocks. On clear days, the Hardangervidda Plateau stretches endlessly to the south. On misty mornings, the cliff vanishes into cloud. Trolltunga floats like a thought. It's never the same. And neither are you. For those who stay the night, the experience deepens. With permission, you can pitch a tent on the plateau. As dusk settles and the last hikers retreat down the path, a profound silence falls. The sun lingers low on the horizon, casting gold across the lake far below. There are no streetlights, no hum of engines, only wind, maybe a raven's cry. And stars, thousands of them, sharp and cold. Some say the best views are earned. Trolltunga makes a different offer. It doesn't ask you to chase beauty, but to meet it halfway. To let go of urgency and lean into stillness. To face the edge, not just of a cliff, but of yourself. Would you step forward or stay back? Either way, the choice becomes part of your story. And maybe that's the true gift of Trolltunga. It doesn't give you answers. It gives you questions about courage, about time, about the kind of silence that speaks louder than words. This isn't just a photograph on a ledge. It's a place where land becomes legend, and you, for a moment, become part of both. Tucked deep in the Peruvian Andes, Vinicunca, also known as Rainbow Mountain, rises like a whispered secret from the earth. At more than 5,000 meters above sea level, it is a masterpiece of geology. Bands of vivid crimson, gold, turquoise, lavender, and green ripple across its slopes, not painted but pressed into stone across millennia. Vinicunca is more than a postcard. It's sacred ground. About 40% of this narrative draws directly from what you already know. The colors emerging in bands, the elevation, the silence, the Quechua traditions, and the language of being closer to earth, ancestry, and sky. But here's the deeper, newly added insight and reflection that fills 60% of your Verhaal. From the moment you set foot on the trail at the small Andean village of Kusipata, about 3,300 meters elevation. The air becomes thinner, the wind sharper, and the silence heavier. You ascend over rocky switchbacks, crossing past grazing alpacas, and gradually feel your breath sync with the mountain's pulse. By the time you reach the 4,800-meter mark, you've entered the high-altitude realm where every rustle of lichen or distant echo seems magnified in meaning. As a guide, I emphasize the physicality of the climb, not to intimidate, but to honor it. Your lungs remind you of gravity. Your legs remember altitude. But each step also connects you to ancient earth processes, the uplift of Andean tectonic plates, the compression of mineral layers, the sculpting forces of erosion, rainfall, and glacial retreat. Those striking turquoise and lavender bands? They're iron oxide and aluminum minerals, each tint born through pressure, heat, and time. Yet what truly transforms the journey is the cultural heartbeat of the Quechua people, known locally as the Katawa speakers. Traditional llama herding families still make offerings, coca leaves, grains of quinoa, small bundles of petals to the Pachamama, Earth Mother, asking for strength, protection, and gratitude for the mountain spirits present in every slope and shadow. As your guide, I share how each color holds meaning. Red for the earth, symbolizing blood and fertility. Gold for warmth and sustenance. Turquoise for the sky and the life that flows between soil and cloud. When you finally crest the ridge, the panorama takes your breath, not just because you're at 5,020 meters, but because of the expansive silence and the surreal horizon. All at once, the mountain's colors seem to pulse around you. The air becomes still and time slows. No plastic wrappers, no chatter. Just you, stone sky, and centuries of geological memory. There are guided reflections that differentiate this narrative. Altitude awareness. I encourage travelers to go slowly, acclimatize, stay hydrated, chew coca leaves if allowed, and listen to their bodies. Many visitors experience mild altitude sickness around the summit. That's normal. If you feel dizziness or nausea, stay put, breathe deeply, and descend if needed. Environmental respect. The Andean ecosystem is fragile. I educate travelers on leave no trace practices. Avoid stepping off the trail. Don't collect rocks or flora, and use biodegradable waste bags. The local governing body imposes strict visitor guidelines to preserve the vibrant stripes of Vinacunca. Local economy. The Katawa and Quechua people benefit directly from the guided entrance fees, the minimal campsites, and the llama friends carrying supplies. I encourage tipping porters and purchasing handcrafted aguayos woven in rainbow hues made from alpaca wool, with profits staying in local communities. Seasonal timing. The vivid stripes show best during the dry season, May through September. Post-monsoon soils may dull, and thin snow can obscure the colors. As your guide, I plan ascents for clear skies at sunrise between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. when the early light brings depth to the ridges and fewer crowds. Stepping into the ridge wind, you may feel a profound sense of smallness, but hear it becomes meaningful. From this viewpoint, the Andes reveal their layers not just in rock but in time. You sense glacial carving from the last ice age, volcanic ash deposits from eruptions millennia ago, and present-day climate changes subtly, shifting soil moisture and grass cover. I explain how climate warming is retreating Andean glaciers, which influences water flow, mineral exposure, and even the hue bands themselves evolving over decades. While at the summit, I invite travelers into a brief moment of silent reflection. Some choose to absorb the vista with closed eyes. Others sketch or photograph the chromatic mountain edge gently fading into cloud. We stand there not in haste but in quiet communion, listening to the wind, not music, but a meditation on immensity. When we descend, we pass through highland wetlands or bofdales, brimming with tufted grasses and mirror puddles that reflect snowcaps. It's another ecosystem level, home to Andean geese and sometimes majestic vicuna, more elusive than alpacas. I draw attention to how this delicate zone filters water for downstream villages and buffers erosion. It's often overlooked, but every element around Vinicunca installs us into a network of earth systems beyond the visual spectacle. At a mid-trail rest stop, I serve cups of coca tea and share woven stories, Quechua folktales of mountain spirits, turned to stone, of siblings transformed into peaks to guard each other. Guests hear the legend that Vinicunca may have formed when two mountain siblings separated, one shedding stripes as tears. These tales deepen the sense that this is not scenery, it is spiritual terrain. By the time we return to Kusapata Air near 3,300 meters, the body relaxes, but the memory lingers. Travelers often report that their vision feels sharper, their mind quieter, and their heart expanded. Some speak of seeing color again, not just visually, but emotionally. When they share reflections in the lodge later, they speak in metaphors, crossing thresholds, being drawn skyward, feeling roots both ancient and renewed. Vinicunca demands more than a camera, it demands presence and respect. Its palette exists because of chemistry and compression, but its power resides in cultural reverence and personal presence. The mountain doesn't offer an easy thrill, it asks for patience, gratitude, and humility. Over 1,000 words of continuous narrative like this could include 4 paragraphs, approx. 250 words, quoting and reworking 40% of original content color bands, elevation, silence, sacred ground, Quechua traditions, poetic phrasing. 6 paragraphs, remaining 60%, are entirely new. Height acclimatization guidance. Local economy details, seasonal timing, ecosystem insight, reflective experience, legends, and emotional aftermath. This version is fully suitable for a YouTube travel documentary script, avoiding sensitive or copyright protected descriptions, focusing on factual and immersive narration, respecting local culture, ecology, and audience safety. Let me know if you'd like additions about nearby hiking alternatives, lodging in Kusapata, or variant voiceover tones, for example, more poetic vs. more practical traveler guidance.